In the grand tapestry of European royalty, few dynasties wove a more extravagant or tragic narrative than the Habsburgs. Rulers of Spain, Austria, and other domains, these proud blue-blooded nobles cultivated an image of near godlike magnificence and privilege. But behind the resplendent facades, a darker design was taking shape, the likes of which would shock and disturb even the most jaded courtiers. Welcome to my channel. And today, let's find out the real reason why Habsburg kings kept marrying their relatives. It's me, and you're watching History of World. So let's start with the rise of the dynasty. Emerging in prominence during the 15th century, the Habsburg dynasty was synonymous with wealth and power. The marriage of Ferdinand of Aragon to Isabella of Castile forged a powerful alliance that laid the groundwork for Spain's unification. From there, their descendants would marry into and rule over some of Europe's most influential houses, including Portugal, Burgundy, Bohemia, and Hungary. The rise of Charles V solidified Habsburg dominance, presiding over an empire that spanned from Spain to Austria and vast territories in the New World. The wealth of the crown was staggering. Gold, silver, jewels, and precious artwork flowed into the royal coffers, and the Habsburgs lived like the royalty they were, surrounding themselves with luxury. Their palaces were architectural marvels, housing priceless art collections that rivaled museums. Their banquets were legendary, attracting nobles from across Europe. Life at the very top had never been so glorious. But amidst the pomp and circumstance, a sinister design was quietly taking root. The Habsburg strategy was simple: keep power in the family, and they did it through strategic marriages. Now, to be clear, intermarriage itself isn't inherently problematic. It's a common practice throughout history, strengthening alliances and maintaining bloodlines, but the Habsburgs took it to extremes. Cousin to cousin, uncle to niece, even grandparent to grandchild, the web of marriage and blood ties grew increasingly convoluted. Each new union was meant to safeguard their vast holdings against external threats. However, this strategy came at a terrible cost. The Habsburg rulers sacrificed genetic diversity at the altar of dynastic preservation. This lack of diversity set the stage for a catastrophic consequence, one that would manifest in the most unexpected of ways. Entered Charles II of Spain, the last direct descendant of the House of Habsburg. Born in 1661, Charles's birth was greeted with joy. He was the heir, the continuation of a bloodline that had dominated Europe for centuries. Little did anyone know that with each passing year, he would become a living testament to the perils of unchecked lineage. You see, by the time Charles was born, the Habsburg family tree wasn't just tightly knit, it was practically knotted. The relentless focus on keeping power in the family had shrunk the gene pool to the size of a puddle in a desert. This genetic bottleneck left Charles with a legacy far different from what his ancestors had envisioned. As Charles grew, so did his physical abnormalities. His jaw, an infamous feature of his visage, became grotesquely enlarged. Distorting his face and making speech nearly impossible, his teeth failed to align, leaving him unable to eat properly. He drooled constantly, forever in need of assistance. These physical challenges were only the beginning. His speech was a garbled mess, unintelligible even to those who knew him well. Language, once a tool of power, became a struggle for expression. And as Charles struggled to speak, so did his body. Walking was a challenge, his limbs betraying him with stumbles and falls. His spine curved unnaturally. His head, abnormally large, seemed to pull him down. All the while, his mind remained underdeveloped, trapped in a body that refused to cooperate. But perhaps the most cruel irony of all was his inability to produce an heir. The one duty, the one purpose for which kings were bred, Charles couldn't fulfill. Unable to bear children, he carried the burden of his bloodline's potential end. It was a fate worse than death for a monarch obsessed with preserving his dynasty. As Charles aged, his condition worsened. The Habsburg jaw, once a symbol of lineage, became a grotesque reminder of their folly. His mind, though trapped in a failing body, remained sharp, aware of his limitations, yet powerless to change them. The story of a king thwarted by his own bloodline. Truth is, despite the best efforts of his counselors, Charles's reign wasn't one of prosperity or growth. Rather, it was marked by decline and decay, a microcosm of the empire's unraveling. His inability to govern effectively led to unrest among his people, fueling opposition and discontent. Charles, the figurehead king, became a symbol of a crumbling empire, a victim of the very dynasty that had propelled him to the throne. So how did his people deal with it? Enter the realm of the occult. As Charles's condition baffled physicians, the court turned to a more supernatural explanation. Accusations of witchcraft and sorcery arose, casting a shadow of suspicion over those close to the king. The belief that a curse was upon him gripped the populace, turning neighbor against neighbor. Fear replaced reason as the royal illness became a community crisis. But the strangest twist was yet to come. Amidst the growing darkness, rumors suggested that exorcisms were performed, that priests sought to rid the king of his ailments through rituals and incantations. It was a desperate measure, a testament to the lengths to which they would go to save their king, even if it meant embracing the extraordinary. Now, let's be honest. This wasn't your average medieval monarch. Charles, too, was unique, not just because of his condition, but because of the reaction it sparked. While other kings had faced health issues, none had been afflicted in such a manner. Charles wasn't just ill. He was a cautionary tale, a monster birthed by his own bloodline. His jaw, his speech, his very existence was a scandal. In a time when appearances mattered everything, Charles was a walking, talking deformity. And here's the kicker. Despite the oddities that plagued him, the man craved acceptance. Beneath the monstrous exterior, Charles was a man of emotions, capable of feeling joy, sadness, even love. He liked reading, hunting, and, yes, having fun. But how could he experience normalcy when every outing was a spectacle? Every meeting a medical marvel, every greeting a fresh wave of revulsion. Charles wasn't just a victim of circumstance. He was a social pariah, an outcast in a world that revered appearances above all else. The thing is, Charles's plight wasn't just about him. It was about his family, his dynasty, his entire empire. Every stumble, every seizure, every bout of uncontrollable drooling tarnished the reputation of the Habsburgs. Powerfully placed though they were, even royals had limits. The people of Spain, Austria, and other Habsburg domains weren't immune to the disgust that surrounded Charles. His conditions seeped into their lives, seeping into their daily routines, infecting their everyday experiences. Living under the shadow of a monstrous king, they began to question their loyalty, their very survival. They asked, how much more can we endure? How much longer must we hide behind closed doors while our neighbors whisper and point? And the sad answer was, until nature takes its course. After all, while Charles might have looked like a sickly child, he was also the king. Overthrowing him would mean upheaval, possibly war. So they endured, trapped in a cycle of pity, fear, and resentment, waiting for a resolution that could only come from the grave. And that brings us to the inevitable demise of a cursed king. Charles II of Spain, the last of his line, breathed his last breath on November 1st, 1700. His passing brought a mixture of relief and dread. Relief that his suffering was over, but dread of what came next. His death, shrouded in mystery, further fueled the flames of speculation. Rumors abounded, whispering of poison, assassination, or simply the body giving up under the weight of its own decay. The truth, however, lay somewhere in between, a grim reality of a body ravaged by decades of deterioration. With Charles gone, the Habsburg dynasty came to an end. Their reign, once the epitome of power and privilege, had dissolved into a tale of misfortune and monstrosity. The grandeur of their palaces seemed to mock the tragedy that had unfolded within their walls, the faded tapestries bearing witness to a legacy cut short. The throne left vacant, a silent testament to a bloodline extinguished. Charles's death, rather than bringing closure, opened a Pandora's box of conflict. The War of the Spanish Succession followed, a brutal chapter that reshaped Europe forever. As nations clashed and borders shifted, the ghost of the cursed king loomed large, a specter of what could have been. You see, Charles II's story wasn't merely a footnote in history. It was a resounding warning, a stark reminder of what happens when ambition eclipses nature's laws. His life and death underscored the hubris of a dynasty blinded by privilege. It was a saga of a kingdom undone by its own hand, a chilling tale of how even the mightiest can fall prey to their own designs.